Hey everybody, hope you're doing good. Welcome to the stream. I'm as always going to check my audio to make sure the levels look good. I think we're good to go. So let's jump back into the painting we were working on last time. This guy Sam Hain here from the Real Ghostbusters episode When Halloween Was Forever. We're going to continue with the Shadow Pass today, hoping we get really far. We'll see. We did a little preview last time of how our villain's head is going to look with some uh, highlights in there and a few finishing details, but we're going to rewind and just go back to our shadow pass. I know it's a little sad. We'd like to jump in and see all the fancy stuff immediately, but we have to have some self control, people. All right, let's see. Add layers. Okay, we'll turn the add layer off. In fact, I might just delete it. Yeah, we'll leave it. We'll leave it. We'll leave it. It's fine. And then those are our shadow layers. And this was our little test specular highlight layer. I'm going to color code some stuff so I know what the heck's going on over here. Yeah, I hope you're doing great. I hope you're having fun doing something creative on your end. And if you guys are interested in my free drawing guide, you can go subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then if you go to the community tab, you'll see it linked in there. You can grab that. It's nothing too fancy, but it does kind of get your wheels spinning a little bit, hopefully. And if you're curious about some of my quicker work, some of my sketches and things like that, you can check me out on Instagram. I post things like this one I just posted today. Just a little doodle guy. Let's see, where is that? He disappeared on me. He's very shy, as skeletal priests tend to be. So these are just fun things that I throw up on Instagram. And so if you're curious about that stuff, check me out over there. And I also have an art station and a deviant art. Enough self promotion out of the way. I always feel weird doing that stuff, so sometimes I forget to do it entirely, and oftentimes I squeeze it in wherever it fits. So there we go. Now I've got a little gray layer here that's helping us see a little bit more clearly what exactly our shadow pass is doing. And so now we're in the zone. It can feel at times like you're just saying the same thing as you're drawing over again. Because in many ways you are, but you're saying it hopefully in a little bit more sculptural way, in a more descriptive way. But I think a key thing for this area here is making sure that we get a sense of the way that those leaves around his collar are like laying over his shoulder area, that there's nice depth there. Now we're approaching our second little pumpkin friend. Looks like he has a nice little soft place to hang out here amongst the leaves. A lot of repeating rhythms in this area. This guy has a fairly thin little mouth, still giving a sinister grin. But I'd like to try and get the same level of fun details on these as we did on the main head of the character. I guess these aren't really, yeah, these are these extra heads of the character. I guess they're more like decorative accessories or pets, familiars. Who knows? Maybe they are psychically linked to him. Maybe like it's kind of fun to imagine the character, animated and talking and interacting and stuff. And I don't know, maybe like when he talks, all the little pumpkins talk with him, but they all sound a little different. So you get this kind of like chorus of voices. That'd be kind of creepy and cool. So we've got these color masks that we should probably take advantage of here. And I didn't name all of them. That was not the smartest thing. Although I think I named this one. Ooh, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to duplicate the flats and merge them into a color mask. Yeah, now we're thinking, uh-oh, we lost our image. Hold everything. We got there. Wait for it. Nope. This is a disadvantage of having a backdrop in Photoshop is that if you click in the wrong spot, everything goes away. What I was trying to say is we can use the magic wand to grab and isolate little areas. Just need to have the right tolerance. I'll tell you that's the most common thing I see people have issues with is that they don't adjust the tolerance of the magic wand. Gotta just get it dialed in. And so now when we're painting shadows on this stem, it's so much easier, right? Because we can just have a brush that goes outside of the area. Super nice. And we might try and contour this a little bit, give it a little bit of depth, maybe bend the shadow around. All right, I think that's working. So that's that pumpkin. And I guess we'll just keep working on the leaves as we go here through it, and we'll deal with the pumpkins as we arrive at them. I think it'll be a nice way to break up all of the monotony of leaf shadows. Whoops, that's a whole leaf there, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Oh, and I guess we haven't locked our shadows to the silhouette of our character. Okay, let's do that. Now I can paint outside the outer edge. I'll tell you, anything that makes this pass go faster is appreciated because it's a time consuming one. But, the other thing to always consider is do you need this level of fidelity? I mean, this is like, what we're talking about here is like, an illustration level amount of rendering on something. And, if you're doing like a quick concept or, sketching quick ideas, all this stuff is like most of the time unnecessary to be this detailed about it. So, exceptions might be if you're doing, I don't know, like let's say they're thumbnails of like creature heads or something, and a lot of the uh, intricate organics of that design might need to be in the sketch of the thumbnail. Then maybe you would go into more form description on the looser ones, but I'd still try to have more of like a broad strokes kind of approach to that. This approach too, I think for some people feels really weird because we're working from a drawing and everything's sort of predefined for us. We're kind of on rails, and some people like to be very organic about their design and sort of change their minds at any moment. Um, and when we're doing it this way, it's a little harder to do that, right? So that's also something to think about with your process is do you like figuring things out early and then just kind of rendering it out, or do you like to kind of continually change and morph the image all along? One thing to consider with that is how is that going to work with your client if you have one? Are they going to be cool with something very kind of like vague and cloudy and unknown at early stages that then may change dramatically later? I mean, that might be fine for certain clients. Other clients may not like that. So I guess at the end of the day, it's good to be able to work in a few different ways and adjust accordingly. And this is just one way that I work. So it just depends. I mean, you guys know if you've been watching some of my older videos on YouTube, the first ones I was doing were in a completely different style than this, right? We were trying like a kind of like a engraved style, which was fun to experiment with, but obviously very different than this. Now, what is going on with the leaves here? I'm trying to see. Okay, there's a big leaf that ends here. Got it. Okay. And there's another leaf here. Yeah, that's coming together. Starting to definitely see that mantle of leaves taking shape, which is cool. Shift this stuff over a little bit so that way it's a little more centered for you guys. Yeah, that's a little better. Cool. And what is going on with the bottom? Yeah, there's like a couple little shapes there. Cool. Start to get some of that bigger volume in there for the overall kind of spherical shape happening. Not really sure what happened there. We got like some weird. Oh, I guess it's just the leaf has some cuts in it. Okay. It's a fun detail. Let's isolate to just the leaves here. I'm doing that so I can paint with a nice big shadow behind the pumpkin like this. Really kind of push it in, make it have a nice weight to it. And let's do that here as well. Now, when you use those kind of masks, you have to be a little careful because they can sometimes make the edge a little too crisp. You get kind of like an alias kind of thing, and so you may have to go in and sort of dither it a little bit, but it's not too hard. And as we're doing this, we have control over how much depth we're implying between the leaves. And that's a design tool, right? We can wield that as a design tool because we can control the implied sort of clusters, the size of the clusters. If we put a lot of dark lines around everything, then we're going to start to make everything feel like a lot of tiny shapes. Whereas if we keep those shadows more sparse, then we're going to have bigger clusters. And ideally, we want to have control over how those clusters are arranged, and try to avoid a sort of flattening monotony to it. So, like these leaves here, I'm kind of not cut excuse me. I'm not cutting a huge shadow across these two leaves because I kind of want the eye to have these feel like one big shape. But here I'm carving in a deeper shadow, and here, and then that kind of makes this all clump together here. So, as weird as it sounds, we're just here painting these shadows, but there's actually design choices happening as well. And it's kind of important to think about design choices with your lighting, right? Like your lighting is also a design choice down to the way you cluster and separate objects with these shadows we're painting. It feels a little overwhelming when you think of it all at the same time. When you do it in stages, it's nice because you can then just kind of hone in on that particular aspect of your piece, really dial it in. And then if I zoom out and I feel like, okay, maybe there's too much definition in an area, well then I'll blur it out or I'll smudge it together. Kind of have to be prepared to remove information as readily as you're adding it. Okay, let's hit those leaves again. And I think this time I'm going to just try to show a little bit of fall off to the back side of him here. Maybe a little bit underneath as well. Okay, cool. I think that's giving a pretty good dimension. So notice we're thinking about small, medium, and large shapes. We're trying to make sure that all of those are considered with the shadows. I think I talked about this last time, but it's the most common mistake I see people make with these ambient shadows is that they make all of them feel really thin and dark, almost like an outline around everything, and that's going to look really artificial. and you're going to lose an opportunity to convey convincing volumes. We don't want to miss that chance. That's our main enemy when working in the realm of 2D art, right? Is the fight to convey volume. Something else kind of nice about this technique is when you work procedurally like this, um, you get a little bit of a clearer sense of how far you are, and you do get these little accomplishment milestones along the way that you may not really feel when you're just kind of working the whole piece organically. Um, it's going to feel like you don't really know how far you are. You don't really know when you're going to be satisfied. But as here, we could like work on the leaves, and then once we have the leaf shadows done, we could say, all right, we got the leaves done, and move on to the next section. And I feel like that sense of clear progression, it can be a really important motivator. It's on a piece that takes you a long time. It's one of the things you're fighting against is losing momentum and losing motivation. But sensing clear progress is a way to combat that. When I was first learning to do illustration, I didn't really have a process. It was just I knew I wanted to make something that looked good, and I had a sense of some of the rules of color and composition and stuff. But process was sort of one of the last things that I figured out, and it was very anxiety inducing because again, I kind of like never knew if it was going to turn out okay or how far along in the piece I was because at any moment I might feel like, well, it's not working and I'm going to start over. Or I'm going to have to change massive amounts of this picture. And, uh, yeah, just for me, like, I don't like that sense of not knowing or being so unsure about everything. I mean, just to kind of cover all my bases though, there are some definite advantages to that process, which is that you can pivot majorly at any point. So, there can be something really nice about that ability to transform something at any moment, certainly. But I think I'm willing to sacrifice that, a little bit of a trade off there. The hope would be that you would, I mean, using more of this technique, the hope would be that you kind of figured out where you want to go in like the thumbnail stage. If we were to do thumbnails, you could do a little color comp thumbnails. Um, if we wanted to be really, really sure, if we were really nervous that we weren't going to hit things correctly, then we could do a little miniature comp of the entire image. But for this, I'm mostly just concerned of whether I like the design. And as you know, we started this by doing design doodles, thumbnails, sketches. See if we were liking that direction or not. Now here I'm pulling in a little bit more halftone, and what the effect that that's having is that it's making the leaves look a little bit more glossy. We could also do this in the inverse, and we could have some of these halftones defined in the diffuse reflections pass. It's um, it's definitely an option either way. But you don't want to miss out on the opportunity to describe the form completely, right? Like, especially if you're going for a look that is hyper defined. A lot of art these days is hyper defined, especially in like the kind of game illustration, game splash art scene. It's all just very hyper defined kind of work. And if you like that, then you got to make sure that you're defining your forms very clearly. There are some products, some games, some films that get a little bit more daring with the work, and they have work that's a little bit less hyper defined. Just off the top of my head, Diablo 4. I think there's some work in that game that is very like kind of impressionistic, and it's pretty cool. So in that kind of case, you probably want to leverage things more like Lost Edges. You could do much more subtle lighting, less. I mean, for some of those, where it's a somber tone to the atmosphere, you go more kind of ambient with the lighting and a little bit less cinematic, or yeah, just different ways to potentially approach that. But I like when I see variety in the products that are coming out. Like, I don't want to just see the same thing over and over again. Or then you get, of course, things like Darkest Dungeon, right? It's like very, very stylized, has kind of like a Mike Mignola sort of look to it, very graphic shadows and stuff. And I love that too. It's super fun. Okay, how are we doing here? I feel like yeah, we're making some really good progress on the leaves. And honestly, yeah, bear with me, guys. Like this is one of the densest parts of this image, so gonna be yeah, just a little bit of time on this, but yeah, we're gonna be able to render other parts of this. It'll go faster, right? Like they're just the forms are just not as complex. I mean, yeah, it's like his vest and stuff. It's just not gonna be as time consuming, but it makes sense, right? Like we want everybody to look up here at the character's head and upper body, and this is a focal point, so this is a safe place to put a ton of detail. Like at the top of the stream, I had clearly some layers that were like little previews of future passes we're going to be doing on this piece, and it's cool. But I turned them off. Right, I was like, we can't do that yet. It's just a preview. We have to finish the shadows, and kind of going back to what I said earlier about how I didn't used to have a process. I mean, in that world, I wouldn't have known to go back, right? Like I would have seen that and I would have thought, well, that looks really cool. I better not lose that. I'm going to leave that there. And it just makes the process really chaotic, right? Like that's the only way I can describe it. I don't care for it. But I do sometimes do like more impressionistic or just kind of impulsive work. It tends to be less frequent than the more organized stuff that I do. kind of getting into some of the other shapes here. I should probably just try to stick with the leaves so we can call those complete. Let's try to focus on this area alone for now. Yeah, I have this little thumbnail over here for you guys to see the whole character as I'm working, but it's good to have a view of that regardless. You can glance over it and see, are you doing anything that is breaking the overall vibes? What's the big read going on? There's a little empty spot there. I wonder. I'm going to ignore that for now, but we missed a little area. Let's grab stem here. Hey, how's it going? It's rainy there. Oh man, I love the rain, so I would love that. What is going on back here? I feel like the leaves got a little wacky back here. Let's just I mean, we're gonna turn the lines off anyway later, right? So we can kind of do our own thing a little bit as long as it agrees with the silhouettes. All right. Let's isolate the leaves again and let's give a little bit of a gradient there. So yeah, we can duplicate that, just kind of preview some of how that's going to look. Okay, yeah, I feel like that's working pretty good. Let's bring in a little bit of those halftones I was sculpting on the other side there. When I was first learning this technique, I one of the problems I had was that well, it's kind of similar to what I was saying about students who are new to painting ambient shadows, is that I was not my halftones were a little bit underdeveloped, and I think it's a common issue to have when you're kind of sculpting the shadows inward from the darkest areas. You kind of have a there may be a tendency to sort of fall short of pulling the the halftones in far enough. Now, not all materials and all lighting conditions will warrant the same amount, but if you don't think about that stuff, then there's a chance that the render will look kind of incomplete or the form will look a little bit ill defined, right? So yeah, it's something to definitely consider. There is how well are you defining your halftones, and something kind of interesting too is that uh, the way artists build those halftones, like the kind of the fall off their work tends to have, can be its own style. Like there's certainly artists that have a certain sort of material, consistent quality of materials in their work, and that becomes part of their style. And that's an interesting thing to think about, right? I'm just kind of cleaning up this edge here. Got a little crunchy with the mask we were using. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I guess we can move on. Well, actually, you know what? Let's do the stem. The stems, I think they'll be fun. Let's do the pumpkin. We probably want to just like get this top area figured out before I start going down to the lower areas. So I think that makes sense. Okay, let's lasso that guy. And so first we're going to definitely try and just think about that kind of cylindrical volume. There's definitely some fun inner details on this gnarly root stem situation. Make sure we get those. So here's some of that halftone work I'm talking about coming in. Might be a little loud there, but you like the leafy cloaks? Sweet, sweet. Glad you're digging that. It's I think it's like a high effort, hopefully high reward kind of design choice. I just have so much fun describing these like organic forms. Like it's just yeah, it's really cool. It's very relaxing. I guess there's a lot of freedom in it, and because it's kind of low pressure, like no one's going to look at that little mark you make and say like, well, that's proportionally wrong or functionally inaccurate or what. Like that's why you notice sometimes some artists stick to just like creatures or something, right? Like creature heads or whatever. I think because it's like kind of relaxing to have that level of freedom, and it's almost like a judgment free zone. Now, it's not to say that you can't design bad creature heads. In no way am I saying that, but I feel like there's just maybe a little bit less of a specific constraint on some of that stuff that it tests something different, right? It tests your design skills more when you have that freedom. So I think it's just maybe challenging on a different vector. Maybe that's a better way to describe it. And I welcome that challenge. It's also fun to duplicate the shadows. Just a little preview of final look. Yeah, how are you guys doing? Are you guys doing anything cool? You guys working on any art? Why is my phone vibrating? What is going on? All right, let's keep going here. Oh, some still life painting, huh? That's awesome, dude. Yeah, it's something cool about painting from references that you can really hyper focus on every mark and every, you know, the quality of your strokes and the edge control and because your brain is a little freed up on the design end. It definitely allows you to focus on some very specific things. I guess that's a good note is just like if you're practicing, think about what it is you're practicing. Like saying you're practicing art is not good enough. Have a more specific goal, right? Like, are you like working on your design skills? Are you working on your composition skills? Like, what? what is it, and are you, and then with that defined, right? Does that help you critique your method of study? Like, does it reveal, does it poke holes in how you're studying, right? Like, okay, I'm trying to get better at this. That's my goal. What am I practicing right now? Like, how am I going about that? Is that efficient, or is there actually a better way? I was just talking to a student earlier today um, about ways to practice design, and he was very perceptively pointed out that I bet if you work in analog media and you work on paper, you probably can build those skills faster because you have to kind of think a little bit more ahead of time about your choices, versus when you're in digital, or what I call the padded cell, where you've got Control Z always at your fingertips, and you kind of can hide from your mistakes, right? Like, you never really have to acknowledge them, and what that means is that you're not really improving as fast as you could be. It's a safe environment, it's a fun environment. I get it. I mean, here I am on stream, like, working digitally, right? For sure. But if you can weave a little bit of that analog media in, where you don't have Control Z, um, you might find you can improve faster if you have to think about the marks a little bit more ahead of time. And then when you go to digital, that stuff will come out a lot easier. Um, I like working in particular with pen, because that's all you get, right? There's no undoing from that. At least not with a typical pen. And so, yeah, there's a lot of thinking about stuff before you make the mark. And I like using a fountain pen to draw with a lot, because it requires zero pressure. A fountain pen, in a lot of ways, feels like a paintbrush, especially if you get one that flows really well. You get a good ink. You're using good paper, and there's something really magical about that immediacy. So if you've never enjoyed trying to draw with a fountain pen, I definitely recommend it. So hopefully, in seeing kind of how I'm working this root up here, this pumpkin stem, you're seeing how something that is maybe just a twisty shape can have a lot more character if we put some time into the inner forms, right? Like, we're really trying to bring out um, just a fun kind of character to this stem. Like, it's just a stem, but it's right here in the middle of our focal point. We better make sure it's a cool looking stem, right? So I'm thinking about this the same way I would think about if there was a big tree in an environment piece, and I'm contouring things so that way we feel also the directionality. Like, you'll notice some of these contours wrap like this. That is not by coincidence, right? Um, just some fun things to notice there. Not sure what the goal is, but you're thinking it helps build observation, and even just building a visual library. You've been doing studies of cologne bottles. It's a nice mix of glass rendering light and shape. Okay, that's cool. Yep, yep. Some nice complex materials there, fractions, different sorts of colored light going on. I mean, certainly observation skills are great to develop. So if it's doing that, then that's great. Um, Yeah, just kind of observing reality, seeing how light and shadow works. Like, yeah, I feel like it's rare that a study from life is going to have zero value, right? Like, I think you're always going to get at a baseline some observational boost, some some building of your shape library, some practice at rendering and things like that. So that's good. Sort of wonder if maybe we just want to kind of pull some of this back into a little more ambient shadow back here. Maybe that root here is blocking some of the light, so we get just a little pocket of ambient shadow here. A little fun hidey spot there. A little a little ladybug could hide in there and be protected from the sun. A D&D painting, a group of friends that played D&D together at the tavern. Wow, very cool. That's it's right up my alley, character design. I love that stuff. Is it is it an ensemble image? Is everybody together in the same image? These little vines here, they're so thin that I can't, there's not enough space for me to give them a lot of character. I'm trying though. Definitely giving an attempt. But I think at the end of the day, we just want to get a little bit of that volume indicated, and I think that might have to be enough for those guys. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if we zoom out, it's like you really can't notice volume to that part. So I'm not super worried about that. A group photo, okay, nice. Are you going for like a realistic style, or you going for any kind of specific style with that? Moving on to this little pumpkin guy now. These little corners on this mouth I'm adding almost make it feel almost like Cheshire cat or something, which kind of cool. I dig that. I think that's what's kind of fun about having all these different pumpkins is that each one we can kind of as an opportunity for us to have fun with a different sort of expression or vibe. Semi stylized. Awesome. All right, moving right along here. Let me hit a few more little bigger hits of shadow. Cool, cool. It's always fun to see the drawing start to have volume. Like very encouraging. I guess we should do this pumpkin in the back here, right? They're feeling a little neglected. We moved on to the other parts too quickly, maybe. Let's get this guy a little more figured out here first, and then we'll move on to that guy. Cool. Okay. Yeah, let's do this guy now. Oh, he's a super angry pumpkin. Maybe someone reached in him and stole all of his pumpkin seeds. In fact, we can even just isolate our selection. Oh, except we need to. Oh boy. Hold on. Hold everything. We need to deselect this bigger pumpkin here. So we can paint this darker here. Oh boy. Nope. Deselect that. Okay, now there we go. That was a tricky one. Yeah, right? It's a violation. This guy's stem's a little chunkier. We can like give it a little more character to this guy. All right, look at this silly guy up here. What are you doing? He's just hanging out. I should have came prepared. I should have looked up some good pumpkin jokes before I started the stream tonight. All right, did we do it? I think we got there. I think that pumpkin is in a decent spot. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's move on to this guy over here. In fact, let's hide our leaf image. It's a little distracting. I don't think we need that anymore. Let's do a quick shadow check here. Yeah. Turn off this layer. Yep. Okay. Cool. I think we're safe to proceed. Okay, sure. I'm going a little more wrinkly with this guy, which I think is kind of fun. All right, let's see how that dupes. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. We actually have a couple of vines we forgot about over here. I don't know what's up with this guy's expression. His mouth is so silly. I kind of almost get like an underbite sort of a vibe from it, which is kind of fun. I might have to try to make sure that that's clear enough. Yeah, the goal with the drawing is to hopefully envision the volumes ahead of time. But yeah, it's tough to get it in every case. Sometimes create a graphic shape and then you run to the forum and you think, well, actually, that doesn't make a lot of sense or that looks different than I thought it would. And yeah, it's tough to avoid that in all situations. I feel like with these heads, I'm sort of coaxing the volume out. The fun challenge. Maybe we give a little bit of a side smirk there. Oh man, all right. I'm easily entertained. Definitely a little derpy, which yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah, I think that was probably the hardest one so far in terms of like getting the volume to kind of communicate there. I think we were the most sort of daring with our line drawing for that one. Okay, is there? I guess that was that the last pumpkin? Oh wow. Okay, and just like that, no more pumpkins to render. We still got some vines though. Well, I think we need to isolate that. There we go. Give it a little shadow here. Okay, and now that area. Oh wait. There's one vine over here. Oh, we were so close. Who drew all these vines? The person needs to be reprimanded. All right, let's see if we can get some of this other stuff rendered out here. And we're gonna just kind of ignore the glass here as part of these hourglass designs because it's transparent, right? So we need all the information behind it. Usually for clothing wrinkles, I can get away with kind of pooling some shadows where they start and then pushing and pulling them around till I like the kind of interaction they have with each other. There's so much subtlety in this that the line drawing can only get us so far. It's only going to indicate that there's some fabric and it's pulling in a general way, but folds and stuff have all kinds of weird little subforms, and so obviously we have to kind of solve that here now. Cool, cool. Well, thanks for dropping by. Appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll see you again soon. All right, let's do a proper duplicate of the shadows here with the right coloration. And we'll lower the opacity of those to an appropriate level. Turn off our gray layer. And we're starting to see a good amount of form happening here. So it's encouraging because I feel like, we definitely got one of the densest parts of this design completed on the stream tonight, which is awesome. We got through the mantle of leaves and all of the pumpkins. So the focal point is getting pretty dialed in. And now we're going to be moving on to the clothing, the body, the robes, and the vest. And we'll have, of course, the arms and hands to contend with. The weapon will be lots of fun. But I anticipate that in the next stream, we're going to be concluding our shadow pass on this character, which will mark the end of a very significant phase of this process. If you've seen some of the stuff we've done previously, this particular pass is one of the slower passes. Just there's so much form we're trying to describe here. And things tend to start to snowball pretty quickly after this phase. So definitely come back and check out the next stages of this process. But for now, I think we'll sign off. Again, I think we made some good progress here. So, yeah, hopefully we'll see you back soon. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. And remember to subscribe if you want to check out that free drawing guide. And you can see all my weird little doodles and sketches if you go check me out on Instagram or ArtStation or DeviantArt. Okay, so take care, everybody, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.